Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in Bay City. Hopefully it's just as beautiful wherever you are at. Happy Friday. I wanted to send out a little video to friends and family members, especially those who have been very supportive of me over the last years of preparing for ordination, for diaconate, and ultimately for the priesthood. As many of you know whom I'm sending this out to, the date in which I was originally scheduled to be ordained was today, May 15th. So hopefully you've gotten that news by now and you're not working on driving to the cathedral right now. That would be a bad thing. Just don't do that. But as many of you know, it's been delayed, and the rationale behind it was essentially that being able to have a bigger crowd, that means family and friends can come together. But it also means kind of the fullness of the symbol gets to take place, because I'm not being ordained to then kind of go off and just kind of be a lone ranger, do my own thing in ministry. But I'm specifically laying down my life in service to this local church. So to be able to have the local church there, the priests and the deacons of the Diocese of Saginaw, family and friends throughout the diocese who have been supportive of me, it would just help to make the fullness of the symbol really kind of come alive. So I completely get the rationale behind this delay, and I'm very much looking forward to that day whenever it comes. But that does not necessarily mean that that's been easy then. Just because I understand doesn't mean that it's been easy to adjust to this delay. There's been a mixture of emotions ever since hearing the news, and then leading up all the way now to May 15th, and then for the future, I'm sure different kind of emotions and thoughts may continue to arise. I'd bought vestments because I was ready to kind of suit up. I even prepared my first homily for that first weekend mass after ordination. So certainly there was some disappointment when I heard the news. It was a little heartbreaking about there having to be a delay. And it kind of reminds me of a passage I've been kind of honing in recently from Acts 1:4. This is right before Jesus ascends into heaven, and before he sends out his apostles on Pentecost Sunday, he tells them, wait in Jerusalem for the sending of the Spirit. And first of all, that kind of struck me, wow, that was like the first ever stay-at-home order. Jesus telling his apostles, stay in Jerusalem, don't go out yet. But this time of waiting for those 9 days between the ascension of Jesus and the sending of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, it was a time of waiting. It was a time in which was preparing the apostles to be able to be sent out and to share the gospel to all the corners of the world, and for many of them to be able to endure persecution and martyrdom. So I just think about those apostles probably in their 20s and 30s, these men who are ready to take on the world being told to wait. I kind of feel like I'm in a similar situation right now, so I know I'm not alone in it. So this time of waiting, it has not been a fruitless time. It's not been a waste of time. The Lord's been doing a lot in me in this period of waiting, in this period of delay. And I thought I'd share some of those reflections for you, because I think it could overlap with a lot of the things that people watching this may be going through, because maybe you are not necessarily experiencing a delay in your ordination, but maybe you are experiencing other delays in life, other setbacks that you weren't planning on being set back. So hopefully kind of what the Lord has been speaking to me in this time may be helpful to you in whatever you're going through. So I wanted to kind of share 3 in particular graces that I think God has been doing in me in this time. Number 1, he's revealed my desires. Number 2, he's helped to purify my desires. And number 3, he's helped to stretch my desires. So those are the 3 things I wanted to talk about today. Number 1, he's helped reveal what my desires are. What I've noticed, and what you've noticed, I'm sure as well in life, is that when something that you're looking forward to gets delayed or canceled or changed in some way, and you start to feel disappointed, in the midst of that disappointment, you start to see, like, why is it that you're disappointed? Well, because I was looking forward to X, Y, and Z. The disappointment kind of reveals what it was that you were desiring. And so in the midst of my kind of getting bummed out that the ordination is getting delayed, it's helped to reveal what some of my desires are, what some of the things are that I was looking forward to being able to do on May 15th. So for instance, I'm kind of bummed that I won't be able to do baptisms, to be able to witness marriage vows, to be able to assist the priest in a particular way at the Mass, being able to wear vestments. I just bought new vestments. Now I got to keep them hanging in the closet a little longer. I want to preach homilies. I want to be able to make this promise where I promise to give over myself in this life of celibacy to the church, and to hear the church accept my offering of self to them in this public ceremony. So the disappointment and the delay, it reveals what it is that I'm desiring. It reveals what it is that I'm looking forward to. Number two, this time of delay, of waiting, has helped also to purify some of these desires. And I'm grateful for these desires. These are all good desires that I just shared with you. And I believe that they're desires that God himself has placed in me, to be excited for diaconate, to be excited to enter into holy orders. And I'm not ashamed of them by any means. But I also think that this delay and this disappointment, it helps me to take an honest look at what is and what is not at the heart of my desires. And what I've begun to see more and more is just what has to be at the heart of all of these desires is God alone, and my desire to carry out his will. I have a friend who also has had his ordination delayed, and kind of a gold nugget that God gave him that I'm kind of living out now is this realization that God alone has to be my only treasure. All the other desires can be there, but they all have to be kind of subordinated to that one central desire, my desire for God alone to be my only treasure and to carry out his will. That's what's got to be at the heart of it all. So any desires that are not subordinate to that desire, that are greater than that desire, or any kind of warped desire or twisted desire that has a little bit of my ego in there, or some of my pride that's looking forward to all the attention on me, like all these desires, they have to be purified in the furnace of the Sacred Heart so that I can desire God alone and desire to carry out his will. It also reminds me that, the whole origins of the diaconate, it comes from Acts chapter 7, and we see that what's ultimately at the heart of the diaconate is service. The Greek word diakonia, from which we get deacon, is translated as service. So to be able to be a deacon, it's not just to be able to do things the deacon does, it's to be who the deacon is called to be. And a deacon is first and foremost called to be a servant in a particular way of the priest, particularly in the liturgy. But the Lord then is inviting me, he's encouraging me, challenging me to live out right now the life of a servant. He's causing me to ask myself, am I looking for ways each and every day, here and now, to serve others so that when I'm ordained to the diaconia, I'm ready to be a servant. Also at ordination, there's that famous posture that many of you may be aware of when the candidate lies prostrate on the ground. And there's a lot of, it's a very rich symbol. There's a lot of different things that act symbolizes. But one of the things it symbolizes is that I'm willing to lay down my life for God and for this church, laying it all down in this posture of surrender. But the thing is that am I trying to live out of that disposition right here, right now, today? Like, do I wake up in the morning praying that I would have that spirit of abandonment, that spirit of being able to surrender myself to God and my will to his? Right here, right now, I can practice. This is like the training grounds. I can practice having that disposition of surrender so that on the day when I lie prostrate for this one great big symbolic moment, I've already been working on cultivating this posture of surrender. So he's revealed to me what my desires are. He's helped to purify my desires. But I've also noticed that he's been stretching my desires. Something that I've realized is that if we want to truly desire something in life, we have to be willing to be vulnerable. That is, we have to be willing to allow ourselves to be hurt, to be disappointed by the thing that we desire not being able to work out. So if we never desire anything, if we just kind of numb ourselves never really get our hopes up, then yeah, maybe we won't be disappointed, but we also won't be able to experience true joy as well. I had a retreat director once give me some really powerful words, some words that are just kind of like this treasure that I keep with me and that I kind of pass on to others as well. He says, let your desires exceed your desolations, or you could say your discouragements. Let your desires exceed your discouragements. So if we're tempted to desire small in order to protect ourselves from possibly getting hurt, from possibly being let down, we need to combat that temptation with great desires. We need to lean into and stretch this trust in God. We need to lean into that desire even when it hurts, because that's the only way that we can then experience true joy in this life, is if we lean into that desire, if we allow our desires to be stretched. So I want to kind of wrap this up by looking at this quote by St. Augustine. This is a beautiful quote. I've gained a lot of fruit from it over the years, and I've shared this with many people. Now I myself have to live out what I've been dishing out. So this is a beautiful quote where he talks about our longing for God, our longing for heaven, something that we experience this side of heaven, and in a certain sense it gets quenched, but not fully. There's always more that we desire. Our deepest desires are not completely fulfilled this side of heaven. And so he has this beautiful quote that I wanted to share with you. He starts out, "The entire life of a good Christian is in fact an exercise of holy desire. You do not yet see what you long for, but the very act of desiring prepares you, so that when he comes, you may see and be utterly satisfied." And then he kind of illustrates this point using the image of a wineskin. And for those of you who have no idea like the way a wineskin works, you might want to picture here the way in which if you want to increase the capacity of the air that can go into a balloon, one of the things that you do is you kind of stretch the balloon so that more air can get into it. So he continues, suppose you're going to fill some holder or container, and you know that you will be given a large amount. Then you set about stretching your sack or wineskin or whatever it is. Why? Because you know the quantity you will have to put in it, and your eyes tell you that there's not enough room. By stretching it, therefore, you increase the capacity of the sack. And this is how God deals with us. So now he brings it all home with this quote that I absolutely love, and it concretely applies to my circumstances and maybe to yours as well. He says, simply by making us wait, God increases our desire, which in turn enlarges the capacity of our soul, making it able to receive what is to be given to us. And then he concludes with this message of hope. So, my brethren, let us continue to desire, for we shall be filled. So again, I wanted to send out this video in thanks to all the family and friends who have supported me throughout the years on this day that I know many of you were looking forward to being able to be present at the ordination. I'm looking forward to seeing you whenever that date comes. But in the meantime, God is doing incredible things in this time of waiting that we're all in, waiting for various things. He's bearing a lot of fruit if we will be attentive to where he's at work in our lives, and we lean into that stretching, if we lean into that desiring that's in our hearts, if we don't close ourselves off from that. And in all these things, we look to Mary, our Blessed Mother, as our model. Mary, who has this posture of surrender. Mary, who valued God as her only treasure. Mary, who lived out this life of service, of Diakonia. And Mary, who is now reigning in heaven and has her every desire fulfilled. So God bless you guys. Have a happy Friday. And in the words of St. Augustine, let us continue to desire, for we shall be filled. God bless.